we turn to drugs, alcoholism, death-defying behaviors, adrenaline-seeking behaviors. We ruin our relationships with our family, our spouses, our kids. We get into financial ruin, all because our body is seeking what it once had.
Eric Upchurch, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Glad to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, so I know you as a 5-time combat veteran.
Yep.
I know you spent a lot of time overseas. I know you're a pretty awesome guy in that regard, but I also know you're a pretty awesome guy when it comes to real estate investing. I know you got started, got into real estate, and then quickly scaled up into being doing giant properties. I want to talk about that transition at some point today. I know you as a co-author of a book called Military House Hacking. That is a concept I'd love to explore today.
Yep.
And I know you as a father of 2 and a husband of 1, and yeah, just a genuinely good dude that's trying to actually end military homelessness in America. I mean, you are the guy. But before all of that, that's how I know you today. Let's go way back. Who was Eric Upchurch?
So I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, very middle class, had to work for everything I earned.
Where in Iowa?
Ames.
Where's that at?
Central, like dead smack in the middle of Iowa State University.
I was Minnesota, so Midwest.
Yeah.
Boom,
Stick
Missouri.
together.
Missouri.
I knew there was a reason I liked you guys. Look at that, right up and down. And my wife spent her summers in Minnesota, and her family's from there too.
That's awesome.
Up in
We must
Park
be related.
Rapids, so I mean, probably somewhere along the line. Yeah. So grew up. My dad was a police officer. My mom was. She had all kinds of jobs and just supported our family. And I really just had a pretty standard upbringing. And my buddy and I, here's a cool thing about growing up with a mom like I had. She brought in my best friend because he had a little bit rougher time growing up. And his dad was actually a veteran. And back then I didn't know that about him. I didn't put that really together, what that meant. But he just actually told me the other day, he reminded me of a story that I'll share with the audience because I think it's kind of cool, and we'll tie that in later when we talk about veteran homelessness. But he and I, just being 9-year-old kids, and back in the 80s when I was young, you could run around town and it was relatively safe. And so he said, do you remember when we went to Bandshell Park and we built a shelter for my dad? His dad was homeless and had some issues with alcoholism, and a lot of that stemmed from his time in the military. And so he was the greatest guy, George Taronis, I'll say his name. He was a great guy, just had some issues. And so Derek, my best friend, and I went to this park and built a makeshift, whatever we could do, shelter for his dad. It was like an overturned garbage can that we moved a picnic table over. And so that was my first kind of stab at ending veteran homelessness. We didn't know what we were doing back then, but it was just
kind of foreshadowed where you're at today.
And then so my mom brought in my best friend and also helped raise him. He lived with me all through high school, and then we moved out to California together.
Awesome.
We actually graduated. I don't know how this happened. We graduated a semester early from high school, and left Iowa in a blizzard, and moved out to
out of here.
And we're like, let's go from Iowa to Carmel, California. So we did, and we had aspirations to go to culinary school. And so one of my family friends is a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. Her name's Jane Smiley. And she said, come on out, live in my guest house rent-free, and I'll put you through culinary school. And so we did that.
Wow.
And then I realized
Wait, how'd you get to know a Pulitzer Prize-winning?
So she's my stepsister's mom is Jane Smiley. And so and again, at that age, I didn't know what that meant anyway. She had a movie in the 90s with Michelle Pfeiffer in it from her book and stuff. And so it was a big deal then. I was like, I think she's someone famous or something. So I moved out to California. We went to culinary school. And after culinary school, I was working in some restaurants in Carmel. And I realized very quickly, and I think people can probably relate to this, but when you do something and you learned everything about it and then you just don't have the knack for it, or you're just not good at it or something. For some reason, I was not good at chefing. So, and I was also found myself in the kitchen looking around and going, well, the waiters on this 12-table restaurant in Carmel are making like $500 a night, and I'm making $850, and I'm doing the work back here and all this stuff. And so very quickly, I was like, this isn't for me. Like maybe a restaurant owner or something, but I didn't know where that was going. So Anyway, at the same time, I was doing multiple jobs and decided to go to junior college. So graduated from Monterey Peninsula College, transferred to UC Santa Barbara, where I met my wife, Talia. And she was a D1 athlete there. She was a gymnast. And Santa Barbara, have you guys been?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And to go to college there
That's
on
insane,
the beach was life-changing for me, an Iowa kid.
Yeah.
And then you end up somehow on Del Playa, you're 50 steps from the beach. And that's another reason I love being here, because it's like a soothing thing,
How'd you get your wife? Do you remember the line? Did you use the line?
So I met her at, you might have to censor this for some people, but I met her at an anything but clothes party. So for those of you who know Santa Barbara, it is a party school. You study hard and you party hard. And so she was wearing caution tape. I was wearing a golf bag, like one of those display golf bags that I could fit in. I cut the bottom out or whatever. And here's the cool thing, and I hang my hat on this because she was dating a guy who just got Manager of the Year in Major League Baseball. He was a baseball player at UC Santa Barbara. She was dating him, and somehow she ended up with a corn-fed Iowan instead. But she, there was some things that I did planting seeds to get there, and I kind of correlate a lot of things in my life to planting seeds, and then someday comes the harvest, because 3 years ago you and I were rolling in your garage here. 3 years, to the day.
To the day.
We were in your garage with Tarl and Jan and there's some things that I did for my wife, or maybe for myself, that ended up working, and they were just being different. I was somebody who volunteered. One of my roommates was her teammate, and I volunteered to go help and put up the gymnastic stuff whenever they had a home meet. And I showed up to Fellowship of Christian Athletes, actually. I was not an athlete, but they let me come. I was talking to my roommate, Jen, and she's like, yeah, just come. They're not going to shun you away. You can come in. And so I knew my wife would be there. And so little things like that, I think, led to a big impact. And she's obviously had a huge impact. We've been together since 22 years now.
22 years.
Yeah.
Now, some people might be looking at this on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, going, what was he, 7 when you met her?
Yeah,
You look very different than you were. What's your actual age?
Yeah, I'm about to be 44.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. What's the secret to looking like you're 13 when you're 44?
It's weird. It's just kind of it just kind of happens. But good. I mean, I'm gonna say this. My wife would laugh if she saw this. But good skincare routine is a good idea. But we talk about this okay, guys. You've got to have 3-in-1 shampoo, right? It's got to be body wash, shampoo, and conditioner in one. Same thing with skincare. Just blend them all together, put them in a jar, and then see if you can get it to work. So that would be best. But no, honestly, it's probably just genetics and stuff. And I'm in the gym 7 days a week, just walking, staying active. I'd love to talk about this later too, but I do hard things and physically and hard things because I need to, and so I have to train for them. You put them on the calendar, and your body and mind can do some pretty amazing things.
What's a hard thing you have on the calendar this year?
I'm hiking 222 miles in a 2-week span on the John Muir Trail. So
that's cool.
If you are an entrepreneur out there looking for, and we're going to raise a ton of money, $200,000 for my charity. And we've done it before, just not this long. It was 170 miles in 22. And it's a very difficult thing to wake up at 6 a.m. on the trail every morning for 14 days, and you've got everything that you own is on your back. And it's going to be 14 days of walking. I think it's a 47,000-foot elevation gain.
Wow.
You start at the base of Yosemite Valley, and you hike up to the tallest point in the lower 48, which is Mount Whitney.
Crazy.
So, so I'm going to get a group of 10 to 15 entrepreneurs together. Everyone's going to commit to raising as much as they can. There'll probably be kind of a joining donation type of thing. So looking for people right now, and there'll be a very strenuous screening process for that, because it's tough. You got to make sure that somebody's going to be physically fit enough. That's a very remote part of California. You have to have a sat phone, and there's not really evacuation points. So you want to make sure somebody can get up every day and go and make it happen. So, but that's one example. I love doing that, and it's for a great cause.
Yeah,
it's going to house thousands of veterans. Just that one effort. So,
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely want to touch on the military homelessness and
Yeah.
kind of what your solutions
Yeah.
are. I think we're going to get that in a little bit. Before we get that, though, I do, in a related way, because I know how you're going to answer this question, is one aspect of the show that's different than a lot of shows is we put 100% of all the ad revenue directly towards the charity of the guest choosing. So
it's awesome.
where are we sending the money from this episode?
Platinum rated nonprofit 501c3 Veterans Community Project. They're based out of Kansas City. They started with 49 tiny homes. They're beautiful tiny homes, by the way, too. They're all different shapes. They're 260 to 320 square foot little tiny houses, all built to city code. And they are, with interweaving sidewalks. It's a beautiful community. And then from there, they built communities in Longmont, Colorado, just north of Denver, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Missouri, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and now working on Glendale, Arizona, and some others. And there's 3,000 cities on the wait list. It's really just it's a matter of educating cities. Obviously, we have to fundraise. We need about $2.4 million this year, which is something that I'm going to be kind of heading up and helping to gain some traction on. And then ultimately, here's the coolest thing, is we know it's a solvable problem. There are 32,000 or so homeless veterans on the streets right now. And for those of you listening to this, it's not the homeless veteran that you just pictured in your head, as I said that. It's veterans like myself who are out of work or fell on hard times or got involved in something they couldn't but are turning their lives around or whatever it is. It's not the ones that don't want to get help. It's the ones that are capable. And many of them have families and just need a place to transition. And so the veteran comes in and can stay for up to 2 years. They get training, obviously a safe place to live. And then they go out and there's an 85% success rate on any veteran who comes
incredible.
in. Yeah. So solvable problem, $250 million will solve this problem indefinitely in the United States.
Isn't it wild the U.S. government, I mean, it's going off on a tangent, doesn't just fix the problem, being it's their military?
You just hit the nail on the head. I just saw something the other day about just wild government spending.
Yeah.
And it was like, there was a study recently, a grant given by the U.S. government for don't quote me on this stuff, you can go research it, but $400,000 was given to research in Ghana whether seatbelts and helmets are an appropriate safety mechanism. Like, Veterans Community Project could use that $400,000 and it would house hundreds of veterans. Yeah. So things like that, like the waste, it's difficult to hear those things and just go like, look, like one billionaire could make a decision today. You put $250 million in an endowment fund and it would fund everything that is needed for forever to solve this problem. You wouldn't have somebody who's served our country and has undoubtedly seen some things that nobody should, or at least experienced levels of cortisol that nobody should, and has volunteered to be up front where the fighting is hard. And those people should never be without a house, know? So, I mean, I kind of get choked up even thinking about it because it's just insane that it's a problem, It's crazy. We're helping so many other people, but not looking inward. And people say that all the time. You hear that in, like, rhetorically in conversations and political forums, but, like, let's do something, And then there's another part of it. VCP, Veterans Community Project, doesn't really take government funding because the government would put its finger. I mean, I'm sure that there's a scenario where they would, but if the government gets involved or too involved, they might say something like, well, were you a dishonorably discharged veteran? Then you don't deserve help.
Yeah.
Were you an other than honorable discharged veteran? Then you don't deserve. So to me, it's not people who are honorably discharged only that deserve to be off the streets. It's anybody. It's anybody who put their right hand up and swore the oath. So anyway, that's a passion project of mine. It's definitely going to be a legacy thing for me, and I'm not going to rest. Relentless pursuit of solving this problem. It's super solvable.
Awesome, man. Well, kudos to you on that, and we will put the ad revenue from this episode toward that.
Thank you so much. Excited about that.
In the meantime, let's get today's show sponsor. Today's show sponsor is actually DealFlow.
Oh,
yeah, Cam, tell me about DealFlow.
So DealFlow is going to teach any investor that wants to scale their investing portfolio, flipping, wholesaling, wholetailing, building a rental portfolio. It's going to teach anybody to be able to do that in a really, really easy way.
So who's it ideally for?
I think deal flow is ideally for the person that has done, let's say, 3 to 10 deals. You know, maybe they're doing 3 to 10 deals a year. It's a side hustle, passion project of them. They want to scale that. They want to get out of their day-to-day, their W-2 job. And so it's for the person that wants to get out of their W-2 job and build a career out of real estate investing.
Very cool. And Deal Flow is Cam's brainchild here.
It
So
is.
I'm excited to support you in that and be an advisor in Deal Flow.
Thank you.
And excited to see people you've already helped and people getting deals and all that stuff.
Dude, they're crushing it. Yeah, they're crushing it.
And
So,
you put in a tremendous amount of work into that. The number of overnights and late nights. And
it was a blast, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I don't look like I'm
You don't look like
I
you're
don't look young.
32.
Got bags under my eyes. And
Oh, man. But you put a lot of work into it. So good job, man.
Thank you.
Where do people go to learn more about it?
Dealflowrealestate.com.
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 Sweet, man. And
Yeah.
they can get the me and Cam did a 4-part video series to help people kind of figure out how to transition into that
did.
heavy real estate business.
Yeah, so
go
we'll give
check
you
it
a
out.
4-part training.
Yeah.
And it's great.
It is
because
great.
you're in it.
Because I'm in it.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Dude, that
So
was a fun day.
Go there and check it out.
All right. Back to Eric Upchurch. Eric, man. While we're talking about, we'll hit the real estate in a minute. I think
Yeah.
we're at a good point here to talk about the homelessness.
We could skip the real estate.
We forget the
if
real
you
estate.
wanted
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Like,
I gotta know
that's
a
the
little bit.
easy part.
That is the easy part. The hard part is how. Let's even go a step before. Why do we have a problem with homelessness with veterans? What's causing? Is it drugs and alcohol, or is it something else?
I think we just have a homelessness problem, and then
Okay,
there
that's
are
true.
and then there
That's
are
very
veterans that are in that bucket as well. So it's a niche within a niche of just people. We're just humans who have issues, and I think everybody goes through stuff, right? And so a homeless veteran might necessarily not necessarily, look introspectively and say like, oh, I'm a homeless veteran. They're homeless, And so, yeah, I would say there might be some things that can contribute to veterans getting into those situations a little bit more. And there's a million of them, right? And one of them is probably things that they didn't deal with, mental struggles they didn't deal with and financial situations they didn't deal with, which just correlates and coincides perfectly with veteran suicide. There's some real connected tissue there that is worth discussing too.
Yeah, that's
So,
a real tragedy. Like the suicide rate with military veterans is just abnormally high.
Yep.
Like, why is that?
Well, we lost more veterans to suicide in 2021 than we did in the war in Afghanistan. Wow. And so, that's something that is, you hear 22 veterans a day or whatever, whether it's 17 or 40, it doesn't matter. One is too many. And, I think, let me just paint the picture around veteran suicide for a minute, if I can. I think it's an important conversation to have. And I love speaking about it any chance I get because when a civilian or a veteran or anybody who's curious or somebody who just hears the buzz around veterans killing themselves, we need to have a candid conversation, but you have to understand what the problem is and why. So let's picture your military service, and I'll try and make this something that's kind of relatable that people can picture. When you're in the military, you're like a high-performance sports car. Mm-hmm. You are quick, agile, well-equipped. You can hug the rails around a corner, and you have everything you need to do the job right? When you leave the service, and so now when you leave the service, it's like that same high-performance vehicle going around a curve that it just couldn't handle because it didn't know a blind curve. It didn't know it was coming. And so when you're serving, you're given, here's the correlation to that. When you're serving, you're given awards and accolades. You're given where to be when, mission, training, sense of purpose, camaraderie. And then on top of all of that, cortisol, serotonin, oxytocin, adrenaline, endorphins, dopamine, all of those chemicals happen inherently in the military. When you leave the service, you no longer have those. So imagine that high performance sports car goes around a blind curve that didn't see coming or just didn't think about, right? As a human, when you leave the military, you're not thinking like, oh, what's it going to look like? And that sports car then hits a rail or a post. Sports car stops in its tracks, but everything inside the sports car keeps going forward. The driver is propelled forward, the organs inside the driver is propelled forward, and the destruction is left in the wake. It's done. Mm-hmm. If the driver survives, then there's going to be some kind of issues to deal with, right? So imagine now that veteran leaves. I was in special operations my whole time in service. When you are given all of those the chemical cocktail, like oxytocin is like the love hormone, like serotonin. When you talk about oxy and serotonin, not oxy the drug. Somebody out there was thinking it.
I thought it.
But yeah, so like those are, I'm part of a team. Your oxytocin is like you belong. Like we're part of a tribe, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's what people want. They want to be part of a tribe. That's why we call them tribes and masterminds. It's like, I'm like you, you're like me. We spend time together. We do the same things. We talk the same. We act the same. We have the same training. And then you have like dopamine. When someone says, Brandon, you just got a dopamine hit without you even trying, right? And then even cortisol, the stress hormone, we talked about this a little earlier today, but having some of the highest recorded levels of cortisol in your body then stretches its ability to take in cortisol, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have your fight or flight, your adrenaline, all of those things are just what the military gives you. And then when you leave, you're now going to sit in an office and you work for somebody and you don't know if you're supposed to be clean shaven or not. Nobody really cares if you show up. Maybe you lose your job or if you don't or if you're not on time. But there's no real urgent sense of mission or purpose. Yeah. And urgent, I mean like there's nothing like life-threatening going on in a cubicle in some office or, at wherever you're working, right? Yeah. And so what it really comes down to is withdrawal without a veteran understanding that they're going through it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now you put all that on top of it, and there are probably some issues they've experienced combat. They've seen death and destruction, and they need to work through it. When I served, there was a rule that we couldn't really go see behavioral health specialists and like psychiatrists and things to really feel out what we're feeling, and because we could lose our security clearance at the time. I think that's changed since, thankfully, in the last 10 years or so. So thankful for that. But so I deployed 5 times, and I was the burial detail NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge of burying any Night Stalker in 3rd Battalion that we lost in combat or on a motorcycle wreck or to suicide. First guy I buried was a suicide, Michael Blamowitz. No one knew he was hurting, and we had to drop what we were doing and go and put him in his final resting place. And so, but the next day, you're back at it. You've got the next bad guy who just stepped up because you just got the last one, and now he's taken over, and you got to go get him, right? And I'm just trying to simplify this for people so they can understand. So you're kind of there's no time for processing grievance, and it's also kind of frowned upon. Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Like, are you going to be able to handle this? Are you still the good leader that we thought you were? Mm-hmm. And we also, part of it, we love it. We're addicted to it. That's why you hear guys say, "Would you go back?" The answer almost always is hell yeah, I would, because even though you're away from your family and friends and everything else, you'd go back. You'd go back for that serotonin. You'd go back for that oxytocin. You'd go back for the dopamine. And to combat, to war, to real struggles. Mm-hmm. So now, back to that office scenario, you can imagine the disconnect between somebody who's trying to put together how to hold a 9-to-5, going from actual things that matter, life or death, to, man, like, what am I doing here? Like, why does this even matter? And I remember one day, and I was in traffic on the 405 in LA, and I was driving, I was at my W-2, just driving to a meeting, and I just looked to the right and left, and I'm wearing like a polo, shirt, and just like I was like in a maroon Dodge minivan. I won't forget it because this was like a moment in my life. It was like whatever the manager's special at the rental car place was that day. And I'm like, that person on my right does not matter. The person on my left doesn't matter. The thousands of people on this road don't matter. And I don't matter. I'm an ant. I'm a peon in this grand scheme of like the world. And then I started thinking about the history of the world, and you can see where this snowballs.
Yeah.
And like, I'm here for 80 years. And do you know how insignificant 80 or 100 years is? So what am I doing? This meeting is completely not important that I'm going to right now. And so I really was like, why am I here? That's when I was like, why am I here? Because I don't want to be a veteran who ends up doing something that I'm going to hurt other people, suicide or ruining my family life or whatever it is. I don't want to affect other people. So I owe it to myself to go figure something out. And so I went to the VA after that experience, and within one meeting, I was in tears. I'm not an overly emotional guy. I don't think, unless the national anthem is playing or something like that. But that's a true kind of funny nuance with me. Like if I hear the national anthem, don't play it right now. I literally will tear up if the national anthem plays, and I try and hide it behind my sunglasses. But I was in tears. So she had me write out my experiences, and then I didn't expect this part. She made me read them out loud. So if you're a veteran out there and you're struggling or you can't figure out why you can't hold down a job or something like that, go see somebody. Go see a psychiatrist or somebody at the VA, please, because I didn't think anything was wrong. I loved my time in service. I went to every cool school you can think of in our unit, and it got all the awards and all that stuff. And I was, distinguished honor graduate of my special operations class and stuff. And so like I had this Cinderella career, but at the end of it, I'm in tears in a psychiatrist's office, And so I'll just encourage people to go do that, because you really don't know until you share it, and you have to get it out of you, So a veteran really needs to do that, and then they'll be able to understand that it's not their fault. Yeah. We turn to drugs, alcoholism, death-defying behaviors, adrenaline-seeking behaviors. We ruin our relationships with our family, our spouses, our kids. We get into financial ruin, all because our body is seeking what it once had. Mm-hmm. Imagine the power of those chemicals in your body, and your body going, like, just look at us as a biological being. It's withdrawal. We're like, where's the adrenaline? Where is the epinephrine? Where is the dopamine? Like, where am I going to get that now? Well, I can go and get in a bar fight, and that'll give me a kick. Yeah. Or I can go and start a fight with my spouse, and that'll give me something. I don't know why I'm doing it, but it'll give me something that I don't have anymore.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now called Dopamine Nation. I just started it last night. I read about half the book last night in bed. Just fascinating book about how our brains are wired. And dopamine's the name of the title, but it's about more than just, it's about all the chemicals in our brain, but how it wires us so much more than we think it does to do almost every action that we do. Yeah. I feel like I understand way more about myself today than I did yesterday, just off the little bit I've read so far. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
I watched a YouTube video the other day, and in no way am I comparing, people that serve in the military to like a professional football player, but it was that same exact, because professional football players, a lot of them commit suicide, have just rough lives, and everybody's like, you make millions of dollars, you're such an idiot. And they were just explaining that camaraderie of the team and the structure of being a professional football player. And then all of a sudden you leave that camaraderie, and being an NFL player, they teach you to be a fighter, an animal your entire life, and then you leave that and you're like, I've got to go live a normal life now, and they just can't handle it.
It is almost the same thing. I mean, it probably is exactly the same thing.
Yeah, from the chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, 100% from the chemical side. And then people are always like, oh, I don't want to compare military and athletes, but it's the same. It's that you're trying to be part of a team, and once you are, you're inseparable. You're bonded. And people don't understand how powerful that really is. So it's not that veterans want to kill themselves. Nobody does. But it's that they don't recognize that something happened, and now they're going through withdrawal that they have to go figure out. So how do you solve that problem? Well, you go and find a way to serve. You have to go now, and whether it's finding a cause that's bigger than you, or even a hobby, and I want to give some practical things that people can take away. I don't want to just say like random things and be like, okay, well that sounds easy. Like if you're out there and you're like, well, where do I start? I'm transitioning from the military. What do I do tomorrow? Because I know that's going to be me. If you see somebody stopped on the side of the highway that needs help, go help them. Find one small act of service today. I'm telling you, it will be amazing. This morning, I went for a long walk and did a workout on the beach, and had walked up when I was done with the workout. Walked up and got a coffee at this little shack, and there was a police officer there, and I bought him his whatever he ordered. I just was like, it's on me, and I struck a conversation with him. But that just felt like a good way to start the day.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well that was the right thing to do, first of all, because his life's harder than mine, and so if you're out there and just wondering like, what am I going to do? Go serve somebody. Go serve one person, and then figure out if that was the thing that you like to do to serve, and then go figure out how you can do it bigger in your community. You don't have to go national. You don't have to use social media. You don't have to go save the world. Change the life in your community.
Yeah.
That's it. One life.
That's amazing. There's a group, maybe you're familiar with them, but Aerial Recovery. The island.
Definitely.
I talked to them one time. I think it was Jeremy, the guy who runs the thing, and he said that they take military veterans and they give them a new mission.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool way of phrasing it, because
Yep.
if you don't have a mission, and these guys are trained on mission,
Yeah.
and like this is your purpose and your mission, you lose that, you just have a lot of problems. So they're like, okay, your new mission is rescuing, women and children out of slavery,
Disaster
and
relief
disaster
too,
relief.
right?
Yep, flying to
They
cities and help
came
people.
here, didn't they?
Yep,
Come to
did.
Lahaina?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
here to Lahaina. Yeah.
That was one thing I did. First thing when I got here, I got my rental car and I went up to Lahaina
Yeah.
I just wanted to see
Yeah.
how
Wild.
terrible it is.
Yeah, it's completely
gone.
wild. Yeah, it's
Sad.
gone. So, wow. All right, man. How did you, I'm going to go way back to your story for a minute, because I think we kind of glanced over it. How did you get into the military? Like, where did that come from? Your college, and then
trying
to figure out what you're
my
gonna do?
path to the military was not a common one. So my dad was a cop for 25 years. My uncle was in the DEA. Another one was in the FBI. Another one was a retired Marine. All my dad's brothers, and his twin was a cop. And so my dad was like, don't be a cop, So I was like, okay. So I go through college. I told that story. I go through college, and I'm like working construction with a college degree. I was working as a bellman at the Four Seasons in Montecito, and I was working heavy equipment operator. And my now wife, girlfriend then, she was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, she's probably like seriously, what are you going to do
I'm
here?
gonna marry you. You got to figure something.
She's poking around at the future. What's going to happen? But she's like, I think I could see you in the military or something like that. And so I'm a researcher. So I spent a good 6 months like looking at I was like, how do I not get killed? First of all, like I'm not like the guy who wants to go kick doors in, right? So how about the Coast Guard? So I looked at the Coast Guard. I looked at the Navy. I looked at the Air Force. I was like, Marines, I'm going to be kicking doors in. So I didn't, no offense, Marines. But so then I went to the Army. Everyone was like, nah, this is in 2004 for context. And so everyone was like, go to the Army. They're spooling up for the war. The Army will take you. There's 212 jobs you can go and check out in the Army. So I did a bunch of research, found the Army Loan Repayment Program. And so with a college degree, most people would go and become an officer. They would get commissioned in the military. I chose to be enlisted. So I started as an E4, a specialist in the Army. So I skipped all the private ranks. And it paid off all of my college debt at UC Santa Barbara. So instead, most people would go, I'm going to go in the military and then use my GI Bill to get my 4-year degree when I get out. I did it the other way around. I got my degree, and then because they paid off all of my debt, which was it was like $55,000 or something like that for 2 years at Santa Barbara, I chose to be enlisted. And another part of that, which I think is significant to mention, is I've always been an influencer of people, a leader of sorts. And I don't mean that in the social media sense at all. And I didn't realize that until I was probably 30. Looking back, working in maybe you did this when you were a kid, but we detassel corn or walk soybeans,
Yep.
And so as a 12-year-old, the first time my mom filed taxes for me, I was 12 because I was working in the cornfields, and I ended up that first summer as a team leader. And not thinking about it at all. But they were just like, hey, I think you'd be a good team leader. Making $9.50 an hour as a 12-year-old was pretty sweet for a summer gig, you know. And then so I was the manager of a retail store, a manager of a coffee shop, and then I got this opportunity to become enlisted as a 24-year-old guy who had an opportunity now to go and help, you know, what ended up to be 27 knuckleheads who were younger than me, and a couple of them were older than me actually. But as a squad leader in the Army, I got to make every single one of my soldiers go to college. One of the things that I demanded out of them was to go to 13th grade, because that's how I put it. Most military members who are scared of going to college enlisted on the enlisted side, it's too complicated. It's not for me. Rich people do it. I mean, you hear all of this whole thing, right? Or nobody there are people in my squad who'd never left the state before, you know, let alone some of them in basic training, some of them had never left the county they were from until they enlisted in the military. So the fear factor of just like, I don't know how to go to college. What do you mean? I was like, guys, okay, you will enroll in college and I will give you the time off to go. So some of them, all of them had to do that. And I got fulfillment out of that as a leader. And we were deployed in 7 theaters of operation all around the globe. But when we're home, in between deployment cycles, they were going to college. And that was just something I felt like, why don't people just explain this? I explain this to my kids this way. It's like my son's going into 9th grade. I'm like, it's just 9th grade. It's like you don't go to 9th grade having to know everything that 9th graders know. You learn the things just like every other grade. So college is 13th grade. You just show up, do the work, and you'll learn. And that's what they're there for. So I got a lot out of mentoring. And I'm really excited that I got the opportunity to start as an enlisted guy, move up the ranks very quickly in my unit, and make a hell of a difference to a lot of people. I really felt that. And then I got my master's degree while I was in too. So I was practicing what I preached while I was doing it.
What'd you get your master's in?
Aeronautical science.
What does that even mean?
It's like studying things that fly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what was your actual role then? Like, what did you do in the military?
Yeah, so by trade, so Special Operations Aviation Regiment, I signed up to be an aircraft mechanic. And on the enlisted side, so if you're an officer, you're a pilot, basically. I'll just simplify this. You're a pilot if you're an officer in an aviation unit. And then on the enlisted side, you're a maintainer or crew. You're air crew. So I was an air crew on the maintenance side and ended up, okay, here's a cool story. Ended up in Special Operations because I was trying to make it to my wedding on time. Okay. Yeah, so when I enlisted, I had a 6-month window from when I enlisted to my wedding date. There was no plan B for my wedding date. We had 120 guests coming to Ventura, California from all over the place. It was already booked, set. So I was like, okay, if I do the math on this course, basic training and advanced training is 6 months. And so I knew when I went to basic training, I wanted to be gray man. Gray man. For those of you who know gray man, you're trying to stay under the radar. But guess what? I was the only E4 in the entire training battalion. So I already had a different rank, and people were looking at me like, you know, why are you not a private of some level? So I had to explain that. The drill sergeants picked me out right away, and I ended up leading those battalions the company there. But I tried my best to not piss off the wrong guy, not get injured, not fail a test, because if I did, I'm going to get recycled back to a class behind me, and then I would definitely miss my wedding because Talia, my wife, was not issued to me by the government, so they don't really care if my wedding is in Santa Barbara. You know, they don't really care. So I was top of my class there, went to AIT. Same thing happened there. It was a 17-week course, very difficult course to learn how to maintain helicopters. If you're off by a millimeter, it could cause a crack in an aircraft frame, and bad things could happen. So it's very refined training. Ended up top of my class at AIT, and top of your class coming out of that, you get selected. I mean, the special operations can come and just pick, whoever they want. So they selected me. I didn't even know who these guys were. I didn't know what the unit was. My drill sergeant was like, "Upchurch, you got orders to 160th." I was like, "What's that?" And he looked at me like I was an idiot. But spent my whole time there in Savannah, Georgia. And it was a fantastic career. I was part of the downed aircraft recovery team when we deployed. And most fulfilling, I got to manage 27 soldiers, and it was great.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the transition then out of the
Yeah.
military into, and we'll get into a little bit of real estate. Where did that come from? Where did the idea of getting into real estate come from?
Yeah, so I bought a house in 2006, 100% leveraged with the VA loan. This is a fantastic time to be 100% leveraged, right? Right before the crash.
Yeah, can happen in the next couple
Sarcasm. But thankfully, I stayed in that house. I stayed in that house until 2010. So when everyone else was hurting, I was still getting paid by Uncle Sam, and everything was okay. I kind of rode that out without even thinking about it too much because we were deploying so much, and I was going to schools. And the recession, when that recession kind of hit, it didn't affect me. But when I ended my time in service in the military, I moved back to where my wife's from, the Bay Area, and got a job. And I realized I had this rental. I couldn't sell it still. It wasn't going to cash flow.
Yeah.
Well, so I was like, how do I make this thing work? And we rented it out, making $80 a month, I think was the positive, net positive. But I remember thinking to myself, I think people probably do this better than me. And so I read, a couple books, started listening to you shortly after. And I was like, wow, there's this whole world of people who do this intentionally. And then fast forward a few years, we had been living flipping in the Bay Area. We'd buy a house and just timed it just perfectly right. We bought a house for $500 with the VA loan and sold it for $690 2 years later. So no capital gains tax. It was like exactly 2 years later. Bought a house on the beach for $900, sold it for $1.125. So 250 spread in 9 months. Paid capital gains on that one, but I was like, this is crazy. Like, what's going on? And then we moved to the East Bay in a really nice community where a lot of athletes, like the pro athletes from the Bay, live, and flipped another one there and live and flipped. So it was like the safest type of flipping, right? It was like, I need to live here and my kids are going to go to school locally. And so as long as I can make the mortgage payment, there's no problem, Yeah. And so we did that a few times. And then all of a sudden I had startup capital. I was like, well, what I think of back then, I didn't think it was startup capital. I was like, wow, we just made money kind of out of nowhere. How'd that happen? But one of my buddies was syndicating. And I just was like, hey, dude, why are you on this jet? Like, what's going on? Like, what did I miss out on? I went in the Army. What'd you do? You're like, he's like, I started buying fourplexes in Bakersfield in 2009. I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. But he's like, now we buy big things. And if you want to invest, so he kind of walked me through what the syndication process was a little bit. And I invested in a deal with him. And then I got connected with Nathan Brooks, who we talked about, bought a turnkey from him. So I was really kind of dabbling. I did a lot of things kind of horizontally I'm also that guy who likes to learn stuff, take it in, and then get a feeling about it, and then do the one that I like, and then really go, okay, that's the one that's awesome. Like I did tax liens, I did private lending. I hate tax liens, by the way.
Why?
Just like I don't understand them, number one. So lack of education, that's my bad. But I feel like I don't have control. Yeah. Like I've had some tax liens for like 8 years. So if you're out there and you know about tax liens, like hook me up. What do I do with these things? Like how do I get rid of them?
Yeah, I feel like I've never fully wrapped my head around it because I've never done it.
Oh,
so I can't get that last little bit of like, okay, I mostly get this, but
I read a book called 19% Solution, and that's what hooked me to it. And then I went to a flipping course, and that was like the lead in, the hook was like, oh, you'll get a free tax lien information. And then they did this whole 90-minute pitch, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can be rich from tax liens. Yeah. Like I'm going to either get properties or get money. I'm like, I'll take that. So that was kind of the entrance point. But anyway, so really the starting point was realizing that people are doing this intentionally, and there's got to be a better way than how I did it. And then I realized that military members become accidental landlords like all the time.
Yeah, very
like
common.
By the tens of thousands every year. And then when we started our company, it was sharing our personal experiences and just going. And then we started drawing people in, and realizing that we're not alone. I mean, there's a vast need for a niche within a niche, and so that's where active duty passive income started, and we've got almost 80,000 members, and with an 83% engagement rate. It's insane.
That's
yeah.
unreal.
What is the company platform? Is it a Facebook group?
It's
Is
a
it
Facebook group, but we've actually gone off Facebook. So top of funnel Facebook, about 90% of what we offer there is free. People can even our book is a best-selling book on Amazon, but people can download it for free for their email address or whatever, a PDF. And then we've now gone to Circle. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, that's what we use that better.
Yeah,
off.
so we use Circle, and we have our whole community in there also. The paid members get into that community. You call it ADPI Campus. Okay. So we're an education community for military real estate investors, and really just in there it's streamlined with all the education resources, events. We've over 30 meetups worldwide, and we have a meetup in Guam and England and Qatar and like all over wherever military members, they hold the ADPI flag and they're like, yeah, meet up Guam, So
that's cool.
Yeah, really cool.
What have you learned, since starting that? What have you learned about the running of a business?
Oh man, it is not for everybody. I have to say these words have to be careful at the beginning, but partnerships can be difficult at the beginning. Some partners have left, and we have the most amazing core people who run our company now. And we implemented EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. We have right people, right seats. Yeah. We are GWCing all over, which is get it, want it, and capacity to do it. And our VPs now are spot on, the right people in the right seats, as well as our ownership team. So I'm really honored to be working with these men and women. And our company is just doing great. We have an annual conference, which I really want you to speak at too, by the way, little plug. But yeah, we had 120 people show up to New Orleans, our first event last year. It's called ADPI Con. We had double that number this year in San Antonio, 2023, I should say, San Antonio. And then we had 250 or so showed up in San Antonio. We had 100 people buy tickets for this year, which hasn't even been released or scheduled. We don't even have a contract for a venue yet. We had 100 people buy tickets for this year before they left the venue last year. That's cool. So like 43% or something of our audience bought tickets for next year already.
So you have partners in this? Is that how that works?
Yeah. There's 5 of us.
Okay. How did you guys come together and say, let's start a company together?
Here's a cool thing. I actually found Tim Kelly. So I'm Army. Mark Yon is our CEO. He founded the company. I'm a co-founder. He's a Marine. Jill is a spouse. Adam is Air Force. So we have all branches. Sorry, Space Force and Coast Guard. We have the main 4 branches and military spouse on our ownership team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we gel. So it's really a neat thing.
What do you see as your role? What do you do then?
Yeah, I'm a connector. I've been in so many seats. And this is another thing. You started by asking, what have you learned about business? Well, as the co-founder, when you're not making any money at the beginning of the thing, and you're like, hey, if you join up with us, we'll throw you a little equity, or hey, we'll pay you a couple bucks here and there, or we'll give you something. But I've been COO, I've been VP of Business Development, I've been a guy mopping the virtual floors, I've been, whatever, and we're a remote company, so. But yeah, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything and find your niche. But now I spend a lot of time on making connections and making sure that the word gets out there that people are in need of education, and kind of doing this intentionally. So we've got a network now of a couple hundred real estate agents that are not our agents. We don't have a brokerage, but a very powerful thing where we go out and educate real estate agents and also lenders. The VA loan is a very powerful tool, as you know. And people need to be appropriately educated. And here's a cool thing too. This is one of the things I do. They call me like Mr. Relentless at my company. So I cold emailed some director at National Association for Realtors. And I was like, hey, we took your there's an MRP designation. You know how you can put like letters at the end of your name if you're a realtor? Mm-hmm. One of them is MRP, Military Relocation Professional. And we took the course, and we're like, the pictures and the information there, and it's kind of like off. It's not really military language. It's weird. So I cold emailed him and told him, I gave him that feedback. And National Association of Realtors said, you guys are now the subject matter experts on military real estate education. Please help us revise the MRP course. And we did. So now we have a credit with NAR for anybody who takes that course. So we're serving agents and lenders and just making sure that the veteran is thought of and that the veteran understands what they're doing. Like, why would they buy? Like, I would never have bought a single family property if someone had told me, hey, same amount of money out of pocket, go buy a fourplex. I would have bought a fourplex every day. So anyway, that's what we do.
All right, last question, then maybe we can transition to what do you think, the like husband, father life. But
that's more important stuff. So.
Yeah. I got a question just for those who listen that are in the military.
Yeah.
It was a very general, broad question, but
Yeah.
I'm curious where you take it. What is your best financial advice for somebody in the military?
Yeah. Find a tolerant wife, spouse that will allow you to buy a fourplex.
All right.
Or you can do traditional house hacking, just room to room also.
Sure.
But yeah, if you're young, military, please use the VA loan. Only about 13% of veterans are using the VA loan.
No way, really?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
surprising.
always ask veterans, like, even if we're not even talking about real estate, of course, I'm going to bring it up, but I'm like, have you used the VA loan? And they're like, what's that? Or no, I'm not using it. It's amazing to me. So use it. Leverage is our best friend, and buy as big as you can. So buy a fourplex. Live in it. It's an owner-occupied loan product, so make sure you live in one unit, cash flow the rest, or either reduce or eliminate probably your highest expense every month, which is your mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And then go to your next duty station and do it again.
Love that.
Perfect.
So talking about your wife and finding a tolerant wife.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your wife. You've been married 19 years?
Yeah, 19 years. All right. Yeah. So she's born and raised in California. She is definitely the backbone of our family. And tolerant is a great word to use for her, tolerant of me. So, yeah, I'm actually very introverted. I'm an INTJ. Have you done Myers-Briggs?
I have.
Yeah, so I'm introverted until I'm around a topic or people that I know very well, so I can speak on a stage of 2,000 people. But then at the end of the day, I want to go back to my hotel room and like just curl up into a ball and recharge.
Yeah.
Where she will get energy from energy. So she actually, her battery is going up as mine is going down.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's been fantastic. And she is, we homeschooled our boys for most of their elementary school. And I say we loosely because she homeschooled them, and she's a great mother, fantastic spouse, and our boys are a great reflection of all of that. So
That's cool.
a lot of credit goes
Still
for her.
homeschooling or not anymore?
They wanted to go to school, and so now she's teaching at the school. She's a long-term sub at the school. It's a K through 8 Montessori that they go to locally. So
How old are your kids?
11 and 14.
11 and 14.
Yeah. At a great age. My younger one is a little engineer. His name's Jensen, and he has a 3D printer. He's had 3 3D printers, and like upgrading as he goes. He started a business in his 5th grade class. He actually had to, like, his teacher's a genius. I mean, I thank goodness for this guy because he's actually teaching very valuable lessons to 11-year-old kids. So he had to fill out a business application and come up with a plan. And so every week he prints out 3 new things on his 3D printer that he either designs or just finds a CAD drawing of. And then he has a little form, and the kids can say, yeah, so like Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or whatever it is, he'll make a little thing and people can go pick what they want, what color it is, and then he'll go print them, and then he gets like these classroom bucks, and gets to see it go up. And so I had to teach him like margins, on his time and on the filament, the cost of the filament to print these things. Obviously proud dad there. And then my 14-year-old is playing baseball 9 days a week. I mean, I'm not even, he's like, he has a tournament every single weekend from now and through June.
Ooh.
And so that's why this year is a very important year for us. I'm just guarding my time quite a bit and saying no to a lot of conferences and things that I have a lot of FOMO around for sure, because I see it. I'm still a social media junkie and watching all of my connections and people doing great things, but I really need to spend a lot of time this year with them. So
How have you been able to do that? Like grow as a husband and a dad, running a company with 80,000 members, being an LP and a GP on 5,000 units, all of that work. How have you been able to?
It's attraction. I attract good people. And if I don't attract them naturally, I plant seeds. I sow seeds after I plant them. And sometimes I guess I'm patient enough to know, and part of this comes back to the relentless part, but I understand that, if I want to influence something in my life, I have to do something to achieve that. And I'm patient enough to know that it's probably going to happen, not on my timeline.
Yeah.
And so I just let things kind of go naturally, and great things come from it. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Love it, man. What's your best tip for being a good father?
Put your phone down. Isn't that something you're working on?
Trying all the time.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Yeah.
I actually just told my wife the other day, I was like, a goal of mine, because I stopped drinking in November last year. And I'm like, babe, I think I can just like add little things on that are kind of tolerable along the way. Because if you do everything at once, you're like, I want to be this man, and then you go insert it somewhere, it's not good. But do little things. And so I was like, I want to be present enough that my phone's not even like on me, or if it is, it's off, and it's an absolute no, hard no, to use in front of my kids. There was a time when my younger kid was, I think he was 8 or something, or maybe even younger. And we were at a ski resort in Tahoe, which we live like 60 minutes, like an hour away from Tahoe. And I got in the room, I didn't think anything of it, but I got my phone out and was setting up the luggage or whatever. And he really wanted this was a vacation for him. And he took my phone, and my kids are not disrespectful, and they are rule following, like great kids, thanks again to my wife. He took my phone and threw it on the other bed. And that was so out of character for him. And that hit me like a ton of rocks. Like I was like, and granted, I'm still not perfect, but I learned a lesson there that your kids are watching you. Your kids they're even just, I get saddened when I know that I'm the guy who does it, and I see it in the airport when I'm traveling somewhere where a kid is just like, I mean, I just saw it at my son's gymnastics practice the other day. There was a mom who was just yelling at her kid and then went back to her phone. She was yelling, and she's like, stop crying. What? I'm not giving you the iPad. Every time I take it away, you cry. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to help. Like, what can I do?
Dude, we bought Callie like a little toy phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if we bought it or it just showed up at our house somehow, some way. But I remember one day, I still remember it because it was such a sickening feeling where she thought she was being nice. And she was like, I'm like daddy. I'm like daddy. And she's sitting there. And I'm like, that is not what I want you to be like. Like, that's not what I want you to see me as, is daddy's on his phone all the time.
Daddy should be like,
exactly.
This is daddy.
I'm daddy. I'm like, oh
daddy.
My goodness, it's sickening.
Yeah, it's rough. One of my goals every day is to and I never hit it ever, but my goal in life is to lose my phone continually. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like I want to be like, I haven't seen my phone in like 4 hours. Like where like you're not actively trying to not use your phone. Yes. I want to get to the point where I'm not using my phone because I don't even think about it.
Yep.
And I am far from that. I have to actively not use my phone.
How do we do that? Because I saw some new tool. I got an ad for this, so it must be just hearing how that works. Hearing my thoughts, my phone is. There's something where you actually have to, it's like a tile, and you actually have to, in order to unlock an app that you've pre-programmed as a distraction, you have to have the tile nearby. So if you're at the grocery store or an amusement park or on vacation or something, and you left your tile at home, you're not accessing Instagram. Your phone will not let you. So interesting thing, but I got a taste of that for the first time in modern history when I was on the 170-mile hike around Lake Tahoe. We did the Tahoe Rim Trail. It was 9 days, and there's no distraction. And you realize how quickly you go back to being human.
Yeah.
We're not, we're some version of humanity right now, and it is not what we're built to be. I don't think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, going back to even what you were talking about, like the dopamine and the endorphins, like that. I think this was in a book at one point. Like Instagram, TikTok, they were all created to release dopamine. That's why they got that
it's
scrolling mechanism.
It's brilliant, and the notifications.
And I heard that they withhold notifications because like every time you open your phone and you see like a notification or a like it releases endorphins.
So they wouldn't want
dopamine. They don't want them all to come at once. So like you'll see like 30 likes and be like, this is awesome, and then you'll 5 minutes later, you're like, did I get more likes? Did I get more comments on it?
Yeah.
It is sickening, and it's to hardwire our brain.
I'm finding it. This is something I never thought about until I read that. I'm reading that book, Dopamine Nation, right now, and they were talking about the cell phone stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different ways dopamine comes into our life. And that book is pretty graphic, so I'll warn people who listen to it. Read it or listen to it. It's pretty graphic.
Other ways
There's a lot of other ways dopamine comes in, and it's very graphic with her descriptions of people's different habits. But I thought about as a content creator, right? So we are not just consumers of content, but at least the three of us, we create content as well. And I realized I'm probably more addicted to creating content than I am about consuming content. Like I will scroll Instagram and TikTok all day long. I love that, and I fight against it. But I've never really thought about like the fact that I'm addicted to like I got to get more likes on that last post. So how do I create a better piece of content? So I obsess about it way too much. So that's the one thing I'm working on right now is how do I give that to somebody else. So that, it's hard.
I can't imagine in your shoes how difficult that is because that's what's helped build the platform.
Yeah, because it's not a bad thing. It's almost like food, right? Like why food's so hard to like alcohol. We all agree alcohol is not good for us. Okay, fine. That's you can make that choice. And I've also stopped drinking too for the same reasons. Like
me too.
But like, that's an easy one, right? But food is a lot harder.
Yeah.
When it's social media for business, it's a lot harder.
Do you find yourself with that excuse?
Yeah.
If I asked Heather.
Yeah, it's for business.
Like,
I,
I have to be on here, babe.
Yeah.
I got to be on here because
I even do that
this is how we make money.
I literally, when I'm scrolling like Instagram Reels or whatever, I'm like killing time.
research.
Yeah, it's research. It's literally what my brain tells me. It's okay, Brendan. You're doing research, which is not a lie. It is actually true. But like, do I need to do that research? So a few things that I'm trying to do right now when it comes to screen time. I'm not the best at this, but number one is I have that app. Like, the iPhone comes with a screen time app.
Yep.
Right. So after a certain time, I have a rule that I do not use the phone after 6 p.m. And so at 6 p.m. it shuts off the phone. Everything but like calling 911 and a few other things.
Yep.
Now I can put in the password because I know the password. I haven't gotten that far where I gave it to somebody else, but I can put in the password and unlock it to do whatever I need to do if I have to. But that added step is enough 90% of the time to pull me back because it takes away the automatic of like just pull up your phone, scroll Instagram.
Yeah, because you could go spend time with your kids.
Yeah, then I'm always like, exactly. So I got the 6 o'clock it shuts off. And then I'm starting to outsource a lot of things that I don't actually need to do. That's what I'm really like with social media creations. Like I don't need to check. I can have my assistant check my Instagram DMs. I don't need to go check my DMs 5 times a day or 50 times a day. And then I also like habit track. Like I track my habits every day. So I write down every morning, yesterday, did I use my phone after 6 p.m.? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And I have a goal of 7 days a week. So I'm tracking it. I'm aware of it. And I'm better because of that.
I've turned off notifications too for email.
Me too. Yep.
And then also there's something you can do that grays out all your apps.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Yeah, I have it set up so I triple click my phone and it turns the whole thing grayscale.
Yeah.
And our brains don't like that. Like
it's like, oh, this thing looks boring.
Yeah, this is boring.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
What am I reading? A newspaper here? What's going on?
I heard that.
created that color scheme to
I
make
know.
it
It's
work.
like everything
It's insane.
pops.
Yeah, that was one of the best tips I heard from Tim Ferriss years ago was make your phone black and white and you will not want to use it. So for the first month of this year, I had it black and white for the whole month. And then at one point, I undid it for some reason and never put it back on. I probably should put it back on.
A book I'm reading right now, I actually have it with me, is 1 Second Later. My neighbor gave it to me. And it's it's about like an EMP.
I read that.
I haven't gotten all the way into it yet, but part of it makes me like wish.
Yeah.
Without killing people or it affecting people. Like I wish maybe it could just happen to my phone. Or like I'm not allowed to use phones anymore.
Yeah, I bought the Apple Watch actually. This one right here. I bought the Ultra Apple Watch with the GPS and the cellular data right into it, with the idea that I can run my whole life off my watch. In reality, and I'll go on phases, right? Well, I'll leave my phone at home and I'll just operate entirely off my watch because I can text, I can call, and maybe get directions on here, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Can you still? Is that act as a key fob also for your car?
It doesn't. There's a workaround to make it work for the Tesla.
Yeah.
I haven't, but I just bought a new truck, and so like now I don't have the Tesla. I mean, I still have a Tesla.
What'd you get? Rivian?
No, I bought it's stupid. I bought Brody, who was on the podcast. I brought his 2022 Ford Raptor.
Oh, okay.
It's just stupid big.
So just watching the needle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude, I filled it up with gas like 4 days ago, and it's empty, and I'm like, I went 290 miles.
It's like the opposite of a Tesla.
Yeah, I went the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
But I feel like a man, so you know what?
Oh,
It's a great
totally.
truck.
Yeah.
It's a great truck. Anyway.
One of my goals, I think I was telling you this, is I want to live a life with 0 notifications.
Yeah.
So like hire an EA to like even take my phone, my current phone that I have now, give it to like an EA, get another phone, give it to like my number to 10 people that I
let me
like.
know the important things.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll tell you what those important things are.
So
right?
there's a book, you suggested it, what was it called? 4,000 Weeks or
4,000
40,000 weeks or whatever it was.
4,000
and
weeks.
it basically, it talks a lot about that. Like 99% of the stuff that we think is important will figure itself out. Like there are very few important things that need to be handled right now.
Yeah.
And so like have an EA, like what are the you get 10 texts a day from my EA, like what are the 10 important things that I need to handle today or somebody reached out about today?
Yeah.
Everything else is not.
I feel like even 10, like you could really narrow that down and just kind of keep on honing that list of like, there's got to be 3 things only on my list today.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not doing
It's
anything
so
else.
true.
Like I spend, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds every single day, which I would love to have back, unsubscribing from stuff that I didn't subscribe for. I don't need to unsubscribe, but I also don't like junk, you know? And so there's so many things that correlate to that in life, like that you just don't need, and you spend time on it.
Yeah.
So how do we unplug? Like, let's figure this out, guys.
Yeah. One thing I'm doing also that
Let's take our phones and
just
put hammers to
smash
them right now. Yeah.
Well, so I read that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry from John Mark Comer. Have you read that one?
No.
Phenomenal book. But it's all about being unhurried in life, and there's a lot of practices he gives in there. But one of them is the reintroduction of the like Shabbat or Sabbath, like the Friday night to Saturday night, everything off. And so I go on like kicks where I'm like 6 months perfect on this, and then I'll just fall off the train.
Yeah.
Right now I'm kind of falling off the train, but I need to get back on it. Where Friday night, when the sun goes down, the phone goes off. Technology goes off. No phone, nothing technology. I mean, driving a car if we need to. We don't buy anything. We don't go shopping. None of that. And it's just 24 hours. We just call it family day with the kids, or we'll say Sabbath sometimes, but they get family day. And it's just no phone. The kids have a rule. If they see us on their phone, like they get $5 if they catch us on the phone.
I love that.
Yeah, that way they're out there looking. And and that has been so incredibly life-giving. Like that 24-hour period is just magic. And that book will make you want to do a weekly day like that. And it just resets your dopamine a little bit, resets your life a little bit.
Yeah, you realize what's actually important
Exactly,
in those 24 hours.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book you're reading?
Dopamine Nation is the one I'm reading right now.
Isn't there's a book out there called Dopamine Detox?
Yeah,
where it
I read
talks
that
about-
one too.
You did read that? Okay.
Yeah, that one I thought was. Sorry if you're listening and you're the author. I just thought it was a weaker argument. It was more of like a personal development thing where Dopamine Nation was written by I think she's a psychiatrist, so it's very scientific and about like case studies of people she's worked with. So it just felt a lot more intellectual than Dopamine Detox was just like, here's 4 ways to shut off your phone more.
Yeah.
So I like the
and
scientific
another
approach.
thing too, and I think this is Tim Ferriss, but another thing is like you gotta realize that when you get an email, that's someone else's agenda.
Yeah.
Like that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, and I just because it's my fault. I spend so much time on someone else's agenda.
Yep.
And then same thing correlates to a W-2 also. It's somebody's agenda. Granted, there's a trade-off there.
Yeah.
But in regular life, when someone's just trying to sell you something and emails you, it's their agenda, and you might even, and that goes with text messages and DMs. I mean, how many DMs do you get where you're like, I really am I'm gonna spend a minute to answer that one?
Yep.
That's their agenda. They probably want something,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, I get
So
100 a day.
yeah,
It actually, maybe I'm going to tell a really bad metaphor because I've never been in the military, so I'm going to screw this up. But it reminds me of like the idea of if you were just like put into a city and your superiors were like, all right, you're going to go into this city. And we don't have a plan for you, just want you to be there. Then every other person who's down, like, oh, I lost my cat. You'd be like, well, I guess I'll help that person find their cat because I don't have any other mission today. Like, my mission is just to be here. Okay, I'll help you find your cat. And then, oh, somebody else's, dog gets hit by a car. You're going to help that. And then you're going to help the person with a heart attack. And all those things might be good and helpful, but you're only doing. But if you went in there like your mission is to get from this point to that point as fast as you possibly can. Then all of a sudden you can prioritize. I mean, the person who falls down with a heart attack, you can help them because you're like, in this moment, I need to help them.
yeah,
But the lady who's missing her cat, you're like, I have places, like I have a mission that I have to go save the world by going here. So the way I translate that to life is if you wake up in the morning and don't have a mission for the day, you're going to fall prey to every single other person's agenda in your life.
Yeah.
So what's your mission every single morning? Today, this is my mission. Everything else is a distraction.
I serve with the memory and pride of those who've gone before me, for they love to fight, fought to win, and would rather die than quit. That is, and I know you weren't looking for an answer there, but that is what, when I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing today?
Dude.
So like the relentlessness of raising $250 million to end this crisis, and the drive to talk about veteran suicide and why it's happening, and hoping just to save one veteran. Yeah. I just want to save one person today. And I hope people reach out and email me or get a hold of me or something. I'll help them figure something out. But it's because I've buried my comrades. The hardest thing I've ever done is carry my brother to his final resting place and fold a flag over his casket while listening to his mother cry. You will never experience a more difficult thing than that. Somebody you've served for 6 years with, and to cap it all off, not being able to cry, to maintain military bearing. So to your point there, I don't mean to sideline that to something dark, but like you got to have a deep rooted why. It's not just a why do you want to not respond to emails, or why is it important to spend time? I want people to think beyond, oh, I'm doing this for my family. Yeah. I'm doing this for, to get one up. Think of something deep. I actually heard Elon Musk, I'll give him the credit. I heard him say this recently. We're asking the wrong questions. When I was sitting there in traffic in LA, asking myself saying I don't matter. What's the purpose of my life? I got to figure something out. I was asking the wrong question. It's not really about why am I here? It's about what can I contribute? Yeah. Because you're here on purpose. There's a 1 in 400 quadrillion chance that I am sitting here alive, let alone here even more. But so you really have to have a deep rooted why, 7 layers deep, to figure out, almost to the point where you're in tears and you have to pursue something so relentlessly. So yeah, it's gotta feed you. So whatever it is, I'm not saying your family is not the most important thing. Maybe it is, but man, I get so passionate about that stuff. So
I heard somebody talking about finding your why, and the way that he words, like, what breaks your heart in the morning? Like, what makes you angry every single morning? Is it child homelessness, or is it what is it? And that's your why. Like, what are the things that make you angry and breaks your heart, and then go fight against that? Yeah,
that's right. And I found it, and actually it was our mutual friend Nathan Brooks that first 4-Peter on BP. Yeah. He and I have been really close. I spoke at his meetup many years ago, but he helped me find Veterans Community Project. I was in KC at his meetup, and then he was like, "Did you know that there's the thing?" I was on stage, and I go, "I'm going to make a declaration. I'm going to donate a house to a homeless veteran is how I said it, this year." And that was like 4 years ago. And he goes, afterwards, dude, did you know that Veterans Community Project is here in KC? I was like, of course it is. Of course it is. And so haven't looked back since, been supporting them. And I think those things happen for a very specific reason. A 1 in 400 quadrillion chance that I'm here. And so it's not, why am I here? It's like, who can I serve? Yeah. And how many people can I serve? And to me, I just need to serve one today.
Last question before we move to the final 3 segments of the show. But what is your number 1 rule for living a better life?
Learning to say no. I would say is a big one that I'm working on, because that is a perfect maybe segue what we were just talking about. It's like, I don't want to live somebody else's agenda. I want to live mine. And like all of these conferences that I'm missing out on this year, it's for an intention. I have to say no to those to make my life what I want my life to be. And I actually started thinking about the concept in 2019. I was actually in Aruba on a real estate mastermind trip with Ben and Ferris. Ben and Ferris. Disrupt Equity, shout out. And they were talking about, we were just kind of talking about, I was like, those guys work so hard at building that business. They've done such a great job. And I started thinking like, man, there's going to be a day where I have to start saying no. And it wasn't then. It was like 2018 and 19 is when I was like scaling up and getting into it. But I was like, I got to start learning or picking around it. Like, how do I slow it down eventually?
Yeah, you say yes until you find your thing. And then
exactly. Yeah. And so saying no, I think, is leading to a better life for me.
Awesome, man. Well, let's head over to the 3, 2, 1 pivot. This is the part of the show where we talk about changes in your life. So a pivot meaning you're going one direction. Yeah. Something happens to change the direction a little bit. So first, we'll start with 3 books that have changed the direction of your life.
First one, I would say Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins.
So good.
As a special operations guy and a guy who does hard things intentionally all the time, which was something we didn't talk about, but I did a half Ironman.
Did you?
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
Zero training. Never even done a triathlon in my life.
Dude, that's insane.
Hate cold water, as we talked about before, and so jumping into that water.
Did you finish?
I finished. Yeah, 7.5 hours.
Wow, amazing.
And there's some massive struggles that were like mental that got me through it, which was awesome. It was just my mental fortitude is what got me through doing something as crazy as that. But so Can't Hurt Me, huge impact. And then Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins.
Really? Haven't read it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was like after reading all these books, the kind of books that people read, that one, like, it's long, but it made me immediately look at rolling over my IRA into a self-directed IRA and just taking control. What average day Americans, and I got from that, is average day Americans aren't taught what's actually going on, and they're given opportunities to work for 40 years and maybe have $1 million. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing the life that we're fed, right? But like, if you have a mutual fund company selling you a product that makes them the most commissions, is that benefiting you? No, but it's what everyday American is taught, right? And no harm, no foul on the sales guys and gals that are out there doing that. It's better than nothing, But you have to look at then getting fiduciaries to take your money and do something good with it, not non-fiduciaries. So my question to them always is, and somebody's going to have a scathing remark about this, I'm sure, but is, if I lose money, are you making money still?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, I'm out.
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to set it and forget it and have some computer automation going from stocks to bonds as I age.
Yeah.
It blew my mind that even the reporting at the end of the year, you get your quarterly or annual statement that says, oh, you grew by 13%. And then like nowhere in the fine print is like, but 10% of it was from you and 3% went to fees.
Yep.
And so
it's one of the reasons that, in Open Door Capital, when I launched that, and to this day, I donate my salary away and I don't take a piece of the acquisition
That's
fee.
awesome.
Because I'm like, I want my investors to be, for the same reason, like if they don't win, I don't win.
Yeah.
Like in any way, I shouldn't win if they don't win. And so I think it's hard to be able to do that, but I mean, thankfully I live on other ways of making money. Not everyone does that with syndications, but it has been a great marketing tool, but also a great, it forces me,
That's
we
huge.
have to win.
That's so good. That's so good. And just for marketing, like the idea of what you're doing anyway is just like, okay, here's a guy I can trust.
Yeah.
Like if he's really doing this for me.
Yeah.
So, and if he doesn't win.
Yeah, I don't get my helicopter yet, but
yeah.
Soon I'll get there. All right,
third one is Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell. It is, so when I arrived to the unit in 2005, we had just lost 8 Night Stalkers and 8 special operators on a Chinook. Everybody listening to this has heard of the Murph WAD, during, and Michael Murphy, Lieutenant Michael Murphy, and Operation Red Wings. So when I arrived to my unit, we were burying, I literally pulled up and they were like, hey, go to the ADAG at the end of the flight line. We're having a memorial for some Night Stalkers we lost. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that the mission had taken place. I was fresh out of AIT training. And so I arrive and I see the helmets on the M4 with the boots and the NVGs and 8 of them lined up. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, they told me the whole story. And now in retrospect, especially as I'm reading Marcus Luttrell's account of them being discovered, and there's a movie with Mark Wahlberg about it now and everything. But long story short, our helicopter was in there as a QRF to get them out. And it got shot right through the tail boom, right through the ramp, and went rolling down the mountainside. And so, the rest kind of happened. But that was you can't even imagine showing up and going, wow, I just get here today and here's 8 of my brothers in the unit that are gone. So Yeah, that one, like I couldn't put that down. Like I think that's the only book that I've read just like cover to cover.
Yeah.
I was like, no, maybe stop to eat or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Crazy. All right. 2 pivot people. Who are 2 people that you've met that has changed the direction of your life?
I will say my wife, stealing her from that pro baseball player was definitely like a feather in my cap.
Yeah.
But she's been so supportive and she's dealt with everything with me along the way, and including PTSD and just building a business and you know, trying to end veteran homelessness and all my craziness. Like some of the stuff, it's funny because I do this like selfishly. It's a weird thing to say, like serving people selfishly, but I had to figure out a way to like make me matter in order to get through life, right?
Yeah.
And so she's been very supportive of that and just been like super tolerant. He's tolerant already before, but super tolerant, and she's just a great woman. So you guys should get to know her.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's great. And then I will use something that I heard, I think Matthew McConaughey say, but future me. Always, 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 I want to be better. And so where I am today, I just had a conversation with my boys about this. Like, look at yourself 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago and think of you now. What did you accomplish? And now go the other way with it. Who do I want to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
You know, I want to be a guy who doesn't respond to emails.
Yeah.
So like, how do I find that guy? So I look at Eric that doesn't respond to emails because he doesn't need to, and people don't need him for that. And I admire that person because it's somebody that I'm able to grow into and really push. And I think we're built for growth.
Yeah.
And so if you're not pushing the limits on what you're physically, emotionally, mentally capable of doing, you're not serving your purpose.
I love that. You know, in the Better Life Tribe, we have like this 6-step framework. We call it REIOS, but it's like EOS for real estate investors. But the first aspect is tell the truth. So be clear on where you are today. The second one, though, is called define your future self. Because when you have that very clear picture of who it is you're becoming, and not just what you want to have, but who it is you are becoming, and you get real familiar. A lot of it's built off the kind of the work from Dr. Ben Hardy, Gap in the Gain, or Be Your Future Self Now, which was a great book. So it's that idea of like, if you can be real close on who it is, and then I love to ask that question to people: is like, who is already like that? Who's a 10 out of 10 already like that? What are they doing? How do they operate? Oh, they don't use check their email. How do they not check their email? Oh, they have an EA.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you have a roadmap. Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. Like he probably stole that from Zig Ziglar, or probably stole it from somebody else. But it's success leaves clues. So, okay, they have an EA. Okay, well, I guess I can get an EA. And all of a sudden you have a roadmap to walk backwards to take the truth of where you are today to get to the vision of yourself. And it's usually just pretty simple habits, actions, or constraints, things you don't do, things you do. And I just love that idea that you said that. It's like, who's already doing it?
It's planting seeds, along the way. You can get to whatever you want to do. And I tell people this like all the time in our Facebook group. I'm like, man, just tell me what you want. Like, what do you want out of life? You deserve it.
Yep.
Go get it. Like you're literally here for a reason. You just have to use the laws of attraction and go find it, and then just like be 1% better. Go figure it out.
Beautiful.
You can.
That's awesome.
What about a quote? Pivot quote.
I will say one is a leader is best. Probably going to hack this, but a leader is best when his mission complete. The people will say we did it ourselves. That's a Lao Tzu quote. I love that one because it's exemplifies kind of a silent professional, which is part of the Night Soccer creed and motto, but also just the fact that like the only way I got here was teams. I think I talked about that a little bit, just gravitational pull. Who can you influence in one way, shape, or form that would want to do something with you, and then allowing that to come. I talk about this sometimes because it's interesting to me. There's somebody listening to my voice, seeing my face on YouTube or whatever it is, that can't stand me. Like there's always going to be people that are like, that guy's
that guy's face.
Full of it. And and there's a really a cool thing that I actually wrote it down because it's such a cool topic. But when you're talking about energy and creating things, it's constructive interference. That's what it is. Constructive interference is when you've got two wavelengths. that are differing frequencies, and they collide. They basically intercept and fade. But if you've got two frequencies that intercept that are the same, it's constructive interference they amplify, they double in frequency. And so when I'm talking to you and we have rapport, right, and we're like, hey, I want to be in your tribe, you're in my tribe, and we've connected on some issue or topic or relatable thing, or there's a million things. Even Chris Voss talks about mirroring and all the ways we try to gain rapport with people. But there are some people who we don't have the same wavelength, frequency, and it will never be there. And you can't control that. It's just, those are just the odds.
Yeah.
So really just being okay with that, and you got to understand that that's how it works.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome. All right, moving to the next part.
Yep.
Your past, present, future. So we're going to talk about something in your past, present, and then future. So let's go past first. Advice to your 20-year-old self. What's the best piece of advice you would give them if you could go back and talk to 20-year-old Eric right now?
Buy Bitcoin in 11, sell in 18.
Yes, exactly.
That's an easy one. But I will say to my 20-year-old self, find things and people in your life that give you joy. There is no real other thing here for us other than that. The businesses, all the things we've talked about, the real estate, the trials and tribulations, the trying to help people, this and that. What matters is who is crowded around your bed when you're dying, and what experiences of joy you've felt. I truly believe that you've got to seek that out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be stuck in a perpetual state of trying to figure out what life is. So find joy, Eric.
Yeah.
Go find things that make you happy, make you smile, and go repeat those.
Awesome. What is a habit or a skill that you're trying to develop in your life right now that you're working on?
It's definitely saying no. It's a constant thing, saying no to phones, saying no to events. I unfortunately had to say no to Better Life Tribe because I was very intentional about saying, and to some other masterminds and stuff, that I was part of. Yeah. Just saying, this is the time where I'm going to do a little bit of focus. Yeah. I'll be back, baby. Yeah. I'll be back.
I love it, man.
I love it. And then, so let's say 100 years, not 100 years, 60 years down the road, you pass away.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're only 24,
you're
so
only
it might be
21,
longer.
yeah.
Might be longer than that.
Yeah, I got another 80 years.
Yeah, like 80 years down the road. What do you want your kids to say about you at your funeral?
Yeah. I want them to know whether they say it or not. I want them to know that I understood that my time here was in service, and I want them to know that I saved the life of one veteran, and I want them to know that I housed thousands more.
Love that.
Yeah. Legacy. That's it.
That's amazing.
Hopefully they're smiling.
Yeah. Super cool.
All right, time for the wrap up. What are you excited about? What's coming up in life?
I am excited about raising a bunch of money for VCP on this crazy hike. If you're listening to this in 2024 or 2030, I don't care. I want you to reach out to me because I'm going to be in pursuit of the next thing. And it's going to be crazy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard. Maybe we're hiking Kilimanjaro next. Maybe we're hiking across America or biking across America or something. But I am always going to take entrepreneurs who love the philanthropic side of business and doing something that nobody else would do. Yeah. I think the only reward is another mission no one else will try.
Cool, man. Before you jump into the where, I'll throw this at you. I figured we'd talk about this later at some point, but I'll just tell you now in case it helps other people. One thing I'm super passionate about is obviously giving away money, right? Better Life Tribe, all the profits go to charity. But what I think is interesting about that dynamic is if you know EOS, right? You're operating it. You know more than 99% of business owners out there. You are already better at business because of even just that one thing. But there's a lot of things. You're a natural leader. There are skill sets that I believe like you've been given that make you a great leader. Very few people have that. So my my thought for you to ponder just in the future is like, how do you use those skill sets to create businesses? And this is what I'm encouraging everybody to think through.
Yeah.
If you've been given those gifts, the fastest way to give away $1 billion is to create $1 billion business, not to ask for $1 billion, right? I mean, obviously we raise money. We both do that. We both ask for money. But I'm always push people that I know naturally can do that. Is how do you build another business down the road? Maybe after 80, active duty passive income, or maybe on the side. But that'd be cool to figure out, how do you generate 10, 15, 20 million a year?
I think the concept's already there. And looking back, I mean, I'm sure I'll revisit this episode in 5 years and be like, that's where it was. Thanks, Brandon. I'll probably text you and be like, hey, man, thanks for the concept. But honestly, maybe you're not even asking for an answer, but I got one. It's doing these hard things, these crazy hard things, like cold turkey Ironman, the hikes that very few people will do, and making that a company.
That's cool.
That every single dime goes right into a platinum rated nonprofit like Veterans Community Project, and just focusing 100% of my energy doing that. I mean, that's a business I would love to do. I mean, and too, when something you're talking about gives you energy, it's probably the right path. You know, so
I call it capitalism-filled charity. It's like, how do you make a business capitalism-style business and then give it away, or a good chunk of it? So,
so you're leading the way on that for me, so appreciate it. That's awesome.
Amazing. Where can people find out more about you, more about this hike that you're doing, about your companies?
You can go to ericupchurch.com/giving if you want to connect on the hike. There'll be an application process, physical questions you'll have to answer. One of my questions is, can you get up tomorrow and run a half marathon with no training? So like some level of I got this, So ericupchurch.com, activedutypassiveincome.com. Those are the two primary. You can find me on Instagram, Real Eric Upchurch. And if you are a veteran and you need help in any way, shape, or form, whether it's finding a place to live, if you're homeless, or if you're thinking about killing yourself, please send me a message. I will respond to every email. You guys have my email. You can put it in the show notes if you want. But I want to help one veteran.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
You guys rock.
It's a blast.
And that, my people, is the show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the insights from the episode. And hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoy the show in general, please consider leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We really do value your feedback, and we read your comments to make future decisions about topics and guests and everything else. Plus, it helps us reach more people the more reviews we have. And last but not least, please head over to social media and consider friending, following, subscribing, and all that stuff to both Better Life at Better Life over on Instagram, and my own personal at Beardy Brandon for more. That's Beardy with a Y at the end of it, Beard with a Y, Brandon on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. Thanks again for listening. I am honored that you would bring me along on your journey to building wealth without losing your soul. This show has been a production of the Better Life Tribe, copyright 2024. Our producer is Kevin Leahy with Podcast Point Man. Our videographer and all-around talented video guy, Carson Smith. My co-host is the amazing Cam Cathcart with DealFlowRealEstate.com. And finally, this show has been all about living a better life. But if you want my spiritual answer to what it takes to live not only a better life, but the best life, head over to abetterlife.com/best life. I got a 13-minute special video for you there. For the Better Life Tribe, my name is Brandon Turner, signing off.